Okay, so it'll be a little shorter one, a smaller group today, but what we'll do is excuse me, we'll actually just run through. Probably not going to take the full 2 hours, especially I don't think it's going to be as many questions. But the goal is going to be really actually to run through this new thing called Fabric Task Flow Studio. So just a few house items. Again, my name is Tommy, as you know. Hello. We do have all the meetups actually available today. So let's actually go through. There's a podcast I think many people know. It is sponsored by Puglia BI because no one else could. Um, there are actually a few dates here. They're actually September 19th now. We have October 22nd for the dates. We're still waiting on December. But we actually have them all available, and I'm going to show them here. And actually, if you look at our meetup, we actually have the next 4 events. So obviously today is the Fabric Task Flow Studios. We're going into a really fun one for AI harnesses. So basically, how do you get context from meetings, from your project notes, from markdown files, from code, and actually get that to really work with Microsoft Fabric and the MCP. So the instructions that you're actually giving to Fabric are the right ones, or the semantic models MCP. We're going to talk about more in detail the Fabric and Power BI MCP on October 22nd. That is now officially live. We're really excited about that one. We're going to go through both the semantic model MCP and the Fabric remote MCP, how to use it, what you can do with it, a lot of cool things there. And then finally on November 19th, we're going to talk all about and go through full design using Power BI Desktop Bridge, the new tooling available by Microsoft that allows you to actually agentically design your reports. What we're going to go through today is actually the Fabric Task Flow Studio. This is super fun and is actually a custom tool built first by Microsoft on Fabric Task Flows. And now I actually worked with Alex Powers and the Microsoft team and forked the repo. And we should have this full application that can help design, build, do everything we need to do when it comes to Fabric Task building out your entire architecture. And what we're going to do today is we're going to simply showcase what the tool is, go through some examples, and actually build end-to-end the architecture that will actually get pushed to Fabric. And we'll even add data to it, all through a prompt and a user interface in the app. So first, let's talk about what is the Fabric Task Flow Studios. So I'm going to go here. We'll go to our meetup page, make sure that we actually have a link here. So Fabric Task Flow Studio is available on GitHub, and what it actually allows you to do is simply ask a simple prompt in a chat your way through a user interface, an application that runs locally on your machine, and it actually creates the design, the architecture, plans out every step of what you need. You can give a simple prompt as simply as, I want a simple, you know what, I have needs for Lakehouse data to come from CRM system. And what it's actually going to do is design your entire pipeline, understanding, discovering what's available, design it, test it out, and actually when you're ready to deploy that with your approval with documents that support that into Fabric on your own or without really touching anything. The only thing you have to approve is the sign off. And again, all these artifacts will actually live in Fabric. What's really neat about this is because of the user interface, you can actually manage existing projects you've already done. And you can also go through and resume that project at any time. If you're like, you know what, the architecture actually need a major update here, we can actually go through and stop that at any time. Again, this is actually coming from Alex Powers, and he actually put together and I will play the video here. What? Oh, that's perfect. Especially what Alex Powers did to make this as movie theater as possible. This was the original task flows. So before it was just a terminal application. Again, this is Alex Powers from Microsoft. Thank you. Music is his as well. What your business needs to solve.
The review process of the whole solution was mapped and things was deployed. And everyone puts in the other pieces to connect. So you can start building. Stop guessing. The fabric asks Lowe's assistant. You describe the problem. And the fabric advisor walks you from discovery to design to a CI/CD ready deployment in a matter of minutes. I'm guessing more building. Explore at GitHub.com.
All right, so that is the movie theater version of Fabric Task Flows. However, there are two, again, main things here. There are two types of ways you can do this. You can do it all from the terminal, or you can use the application. Both of them use the same backend skills and agents to do so. Now, it really starts with a simple application. Again, this is all something you locally clone on your machine. You install the NPM, which is this terminal. We have all the instructions down here. We're simply clone the Fabric Task Flow Studios, and we just click on the start.bat. And again, what we're actually going to do is we're going to add a prompt, and we'll do one together here. There's phases on each of the sides that we want to do, review the architecture diagram, and then we can go through any deliverable. So let's actually take a look at it. I've already installed my computer, and I'm actually going to start it on my computer here. So again, we have Fabric Task Flows, which should be right here. This is going to launch a terminal. And now you can actually see there's a terminal running here that says what's actually happening. But again, this whole application that's being built is just running locally on my machine. So a few elements here to kind of understand. We have a chat. We can actually choose between Claude Code or GitHub Copilot, whatever meets your fancy. We can try some of the example prompts here, or we can actually look at our existing projects. So I can actually see here, if I look at my existing projects, oh, I think I want to do my existing projects here. I can actually see I have a look at a fabric tool, but why don't we build our own? So what we're actually going to do here is I actually have in my fabric project, I want to see if I can pull it up right here. I have an existing workspace here that I'm going to take a look at. So I created a demo because my good buddy of mine, Mike Carlo, who is a little like, we don't want to use baseball stats. So I created a business team. And this is concessions, configuration, CRM, and intelligence. And what we actually have here is some of the main elements that would make up. If you ran a baseball club, but you didn't care about the baseball side of it, we have all the information here. I have my merchandise, season information, the standings, churn events, our features, and a renewal for tickets, and everything in between. I can see actually, if I go to our renewal summary, I can even see the accounts and what has actually happened here. So I'll see basically looking at how many accounts are full season or flex 20 or half. But we have everything even for concessions, including the employees who are working that day, the products, the inventory, the food, the stand labor, the inventory for all the products that we have, all the concessions that we may have. So if you're just joining, Mike Carlo hates me using baseball stats. So what I did was I created a baseball company who didn't care about baseball. So everything in between. So you can see here's all the different information we said, what the event type was, what the products that were actually purchased here. But we want to expand on this because our team is actually doing a lot more when it comes to our season tickets. So we want to know more about where people are buying tickets, but we need to get this data in. That is bar telemetrics that we're finding when people pass certain places in the stadium. And what we're going to actually do is see how much that influenced the food. So I'm going to go back to my Fabric Test Flows Studio, and we're going to integrate this. So again, I'm going to use Claude Code. Now, to connect, it uses the Azure command line interface. So it should understand, recognize what workspace. I can start with anything. And what we're actually going to do here is let's start with a basic prompt here. And if anyone has any suggestions, we'll start with any particular type of idea or architecture. It could be something you're working on. It could be something completely made up. Any suggestions?
Working on that workspace.
We're going to work from that workspace. We have things set up, but we can also we can create our own workspace and work from something completely new.
I was just thinking if we try to take a raw set of data and make that go.
Sure. So why don't we, so let's start with, let's do that at the end because that's what we're going to do. So you actually took my second demo. Well, let's say something new. Say, we have concession based data tracking in a system that tracks vendor food purchases. And let's see if we keep typing cost for our state. Huge. I'm actually going to just talk in here. The huge part here is taking a look at how that food actually attributes to where people sit, comma, in regards to how much do they buy relates to where they actually sit in the stadium. We also want to know if they are recurring customers, whether they have season tickets, have a flex pass, or singles ticket buyers, period. Some may be part of our club for the baseball team. Others may be anonymous. We want to see, is there certain foods we should sell at certain locations in the stadium? And once we have our prompt, again, it doesn't have to be just build the architecture, but we can actually see is really describe the business scenario. We're going to click on build, and I am going to turn off this auto advanced task phases. And I know what we need to do because I need to authenticate to Claude again because I did that yesterday and it must have ran out. So we'll do this super quick. So again, if you are using Claude Code, you may also have to make sure you're authenticated. So let's log in. Claude account with subscription. We'll put this somewhere else. The nice thing is you do not actually have to use your token. If you use auth, you can do so. Still doesn't accept passkeys in that sign-in. Authorize that here. So we should be all set up. Let's see if the session works. I may actually have to try again and rerun it because it'll see if it works. Here we go. So we authenticated and understand the instructions. And there's a few things you're going to notice here. One, on the left-hand side, we're going to see what's called deliverables. These are all the documents that it's getting based on my prompt. It's going to help start building that out. Some of the things that it's doing here that you're going to see, and you can see that it's actually building out concession-based tracking. It created a folder for this. And that's where the project lives. I can see the architecture handoff on what we're actually going to do. So the prompt and all the documents are saved here. It's actually building out the project and through an agent skills. While that runs, what we're actually going to do is take a look at the code itself to see what's actually going on. So there are projects in here that are all blank, but really it's going to be when it comes to the app itself. Actually, no, it's going to be in There are certain projects that are going to be running. We're going to go to skills. These are actually skills from Alex Powers. So for this agent, so there's actually an agent here that understands basically the pipeline that actually occurs. And you can see there's some of the skills here, for example, of the fabric design. It understands the designer or the architect role. It's going, and again, all these skills are meant for TaskFlow Studio. Every single skill here is meant to run through this thing. You can try to add the skill if you wanted to another harness, but these are all meant for the project here. And it's telling load the discovery brief, go through, etc. So we'll go back. We'll see how we're doing. Let's see if I can move this guy somewhere else. So as we go to Fabric TaskFlow Studios, we can see we still are in the discover phase. Now, what's really cool about this is if you were to open up another instance of Fabric TaskFlow Studios, again, this is running on the local server, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there is my project and I can view it live. Now, apologize for the scrolling out. I do need to change some of the things when it comes to showing. We can see that projects that I've been working on or have worked on, I can view here. So again, as what we're going through right now, it's actually running through all the scripts. It's actually beginning to go through the agent itself, because the main thing that really runs this, and again, you could technically take this folder in GitHub and run somewhere else, but you can actually see here that there is the Fabric Advisor agent. This is what the Copilot is running on. When you run in the project, now, if you run in the terminal, you need to run it in the folder location. Fabric TaskFlow Studios, you just open up the user, the interface. It talks about what your role is. It talks about running a pipeline. It talks about the human gates for sign-off. It talks about different certain guardrails. And again, it is utilizing all the different agent skills here. We'll go back. Again, we're still going through the discovery. It's important to note here that this is part of really what the next series of things we're going to be doing during the user group. Again, to promote what we're doing for the user group. And again, bring your friends, get a free sandwich, because we our next 4 user groups. And again, Phil, let me know if the dates, oh, good, we got a 4.8 rating. If these dates look right, but we have 3 new ones coming, 1 in December. We have September 24th, our next one, using AR harnesses to harness Microsoft Fabric. We're talking about all about the Microsoft Fabric MCP and Power BI model MCP, and then how to actually design using Power BI Desktop Bridge in November. While the one other one's flowing, we'll talk about really what we're doing here is we're going to, in September, again, bring a friend. For every friend you bring, you get a free sandwich. We're actually going to go through a harness. There's an article here just talking about how to use what some people call second brain. I personally use Notion. You can use Markdown or GitHub repo and run through this. So how's our discovery doing? So here we go. We're looking at the discovery, and you can actually see the discovery is done. It's actually showing me the documentation here. And it has my prompt that I have. And it goes through certain things in terms of how much volume, velocity, rarity, and versatility there is. This is a huge part of how Fabric works. And again, this is basic data engineering. How much data do we have? How fast does it happen? How different is the data? And how flexible it is. So you can actually see, hey, look, there's some inferred signals. We need real-time streaming and event analytics. What about event analytics in the medallion score? It gives it a score to say what it should actually do. And it says, what capabilities do we need? We should have a historical medallion. We have secrets governance. We have a semantic self-service and a semantic model. Again, all running through the model. And you actually read, and that tells you what it inferred and why. The keywords can only count the word tracking, guest streaming. I read that as a false positive. What you actually desired is retroactive merchandising analysis. What items sell to whom in which part of the ballpark. That's bashed to the brief list medallion, basic data analytics. So this is really interesting here, because if I said I had an IT company and we, or an app, and we need to see, something just like that was in the show Silicon Valley, to see usage, it's probably going to for real-time streaming, and it can also build that. Any artifact that exists in Fabric and can build. So the reason why I paused it here again, because you can see this auto advanced phases. What it would actually do if I had the auto advanced phases on, it's going to build everything until we get to the sign off to deploy it. I like turning this off personally so I can modify, because it is not just that single prompt, and now I have to work with that single prompt. I can say this is great. Reporting in a Power BI report. So I'm going to say this is great. Reporting in a Power BI report are going to be huge. So I want to focus on building Power BI reports, not a Fabric app. We did that last month, and not real-time streaming. I can also say no real-time streaming is needed. One thing that's going to be the next version of this is you can actually queue your messages back. So you don't have to wait and actually have multiple messages coming and working simultaneously. Claude now supports multitasking, so that's something we'll be able to incorporate. This shouldn't take as much time here. Once we go to the discover phase, again, you really want to make sure you get the discover phase right, because that's going to dictate how the design is. It does a test, and then we actually go to sign off. So again, our AR harness is one that we're doing next week. While we're waiting for that to run, is simply going through when it comes to how do you actually, honestly, my own workflow, rather, I really barely ever prompt now in terms of adding just a single chat. It's usually coming from another tool. And this is an article, prompting BI. Okay, so we'll see what we have. Changes are great. A confirmed requirement, updated the brief. One thing I checked, required item, semantic model, not report. That looks like a graph, so I traced it. Okay, everything looks good. The architecture is still in it. Let's continue the pipeline. I've approved it. So now what we're going to do is you're going to notice that on the left-hand side, discover is going to be completed. It's going to have a nice check mark, and we're going to the design. What I can also look at is deliverables. The deliverables are also going to update here, and you can actually see these deliverables have updated. It has a nice markdown. I can also even edit this in the app itself. So in the markdown, it's like, you know what, I actually want to update my own information here. Well, we can actually see, okay, this is what we've done. I can see the architecture handoff. Right now, it is blank because this is what's going to happen once we get to the design phase. And you actually see what it's actually telling you to do. Do the handoff, run the task flow ID or the project. Any questions so far as this runs? And what's actually neat about this too is I'm finding more and more that I am actually running here. We're sharing this. Okay, haha. It's baked. So we have the discipline here, and you'll actually notice here that the architecture handoff is good. The architecture handoff has now been built. So again, this was blank, but now it's actually letting you know this is everything that's going to be built. The lakehouse storage, ingestion with data flows Gen 2. Why did it choose that? We can update this. We need to. Processing a notebook. So I'm not going to worry about the data flow Gen 2 here. We're obviously not going to run it. I don't want to spend that money on data flow Gen 2. We'll talk about environment variables. We have skill set, low code, and we don't need the API. It's talking about the deployment order. And what we can actually see here is if you want to, before you move on, is say what alternatives did it consider or why it was rejected. This is one of my favorite parts because rather than just accepting and really anything in any when you work agentically, regardless of Fabric or Power BI, don't just take things at face value. So you can see here it's saying, okay, we are rejected the event stream, small volume. We don't need real-time streaming. Suits data flows Gen 2 for visual periods. And you see it keeps going for Gen 2. How you doing? Are you here for the user group? Yes. So perfect. What Well, just kind of, I'm gonna do a quick recap for you. How you doing? So, my name is Tommy. Nice to meet you. So we're just going through Fabric TaskFlow Studios. The link is available in the meeting. It is a GitHub repo that we're actually deploying and actually building out our entire architecture in Fabric using a nice little app and Cloud Code. And everything is all in the app. I don't need to go to the terminal at all. Now, I may want to look at this and edit this, or in my prompt say, take a look at the architecture handoff. I don't want data flows Gen 2 at all. I want everything in notebooks. Especially, you know, I can also spend, yes, go ahead.
On that, for like structure, you can get one in and say, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I actually created a skill called my Fabric Prompt Builder. That actually, here, let's see if I can.
Part of that. Is it based on the fabric capacity? Will it alter what it recommends?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Based on the size of your fabric capacity?
No, it's not going to take a look at that initially. So, and you can give that specification. So I actually built the skill that is actually letting you know, like, hey, these are things that matters. There's a thing called Fabric TaskFlow Studios. I have a project as this, and this prompt builder will help you build the right prompt for TaskFlow Studio. So, but all those things you can put in that prompt, because again, it is really just an LLM on the background. It is Cloud Code on the back end or GitHub Copilot. So you can say, here's the deal. I have an F2, I have 10 million rows of data, and I don't want to use data flows Gen 2. Now here's my project brief. Or you can just simply say, look, I got a client that works on cars and they want to know what tires to sell. So you can be as specific or as general as you want. That being said, like anything, it works better the more context you give it. However, with my own testing, I'm very surprised with how well it actually does with even a very general statement here. All right, so we're taking a look at this. Everything looks good. The deployment strategy. Let's actually change it to say, you know what? I don't want yeah, you know what? I don't want data flows Gen 2 at all. Those are expensive and we have a small capacity. Can you verify for me what tenant I am in and what workspace you would plan to deploy this to? So what I'm actually doing here is actually even going through and letting them know before I deploy it. And I could have done it in that little chat box right here as well, which I probably should have done. Either one works. That interface is just nice for in case you want to see it. Now you see it's actually saying, let me record that the Gen 2 constraints and check what deployment target is. Because what if you work with multiple clients or multiple tenants? You obviously want to make sure you deploy this in the right place. So it's actually saying what tenant is confirmed via Azure CLI, and it's actually saying what workspaces exist and what is the capacity. So it's actually going to do a run, look at my tenant. Again, this is all running locally. I mean, the application and Cloud Code is. It obviously need, again, you need Fabric or Azure CLI tool installed. You also need Cloud Code. But that's a great question here too. So I would recommend creating your own skill that goes off the TaskFlow Studio. Say, I want to build a skill that when I prompt this is always going to have some information. Build the prompt so it always has a context here. So here's what we will. It says the candidate flows will pull data flows is only an option in the ingestion selection decision for these tasks, not a required item. So your constraint is cheap to audit. Recording that brief for now. So it's actually letting know it's an option. What that architecture handoff is going to do is hand it off to another agent or another skill to do the evaluation.
If you actually connect to a workspace.
Yeah, so here we go. So what we're actually saying here, I'm connected to Puglia BI. It shows me my Azure subscription. I'm glad it doesn't show me any cost. It shows I'm connected with the Fabric REST BI directly using Fabric Remote Connect. I didn't connect Fabric Remote, but I'm using Azure CLI, and it shows me the capacity that I have and whether I have a trial, all the capacity that I have. It says, you're right to be worried. Thanks, Claude. And it says the F2 is 2 CUs, the smallest paid one, the target workspace. So let's do this. So, and again, it's going to ask me here what workspace we're going to do this. Let's say, let's be north side. So you do that in Claude Code. I haven't set it up in the app, but when you start Claude Code, you can say you want to use Opus or Fable. I'll say this. Create a folder just for this. And it's even also saying with the Spark medallion, maybe heavier, would you rather put it into a warehouse? Baseball. Oh, we'll say workspace, create a folder, and let's. So we're actually I'm gonna stop it here. So I don't want it to run because I can stop at any time. So I'm gonna say North Ice Baseball Workspace, create a folder just for this project. So again, because each of these sessions are a project. What's really nice about this is Fabric Task Force Studios saves this information, the documentation, the test plan, your architecture, so you can resume it at any time. So you can actually see it's creating the folder. And then we'll go back here again. And I can always go back to it. I can see the baseball tracking where it's at in the status. What's also cool with the phases is you can actually go back and either restart a session or restore one of the phases or edit them. Let's say you're looking at this and you're like, you know what, this test plan stinks. So I can just go here and edit that deliverable, view the document, review the deliverable information, or even redo from this phase. So I'll actually retract what it did here. This is really important too, because before you get to sign off, obviously, you want to be careful what's going on. So again, it's looking at the discovery brief. And we'll see, you can actually see here, everything that we updated this. The warehouse option is chosen over the Medallion Lake House. No data flows Gen 2. So create a folder, your source data may already be there. I want to this. Minor league stadium. Do that and I'll say just show me the sign off approval. We have this data separately. Now, what's really neat about this is because I'm connected to the workspace, it's not just randomly creating things willy-nilly. The last thing here I think is the most important. Is saying, do you want me to actually inspect the lake house that's in that workspace? So we can actually retrieve data from Fabric here, not just necessarily creating everything. And what we're seeing is it's going to ask me for sign off, which I'll be able to sign off on the left-hand side, or when it shows me the sign off again, which will then go us to deploy. One thing I've actually used this for too is because it's connected to the Fabric Remote MCP or the Fabric Remote API, you can also use this to run certain pipelines in your Fabric ecosystem. This initially, when it was built, was kind of meant just for building the architecture. But if you actually want to run your notebooks or run a pipeline or run a job, you can actually do this from the TaskFlow Studio. That's where the projects become really important here. And again, it's saying the TaskFlow is still a pinned to event analytics. We're just doing some logic here. And again, it's actually stopping before it shows the sign off. Now, let me actually go back to my Lakehouse Studio, and I'm actually going to refresh this because I think I should see, if I'm correct, a new folder here that I created. I don't think it's going to have any information in it. If I'm correct, can say, here we go. Here's our folder. There's nothing in it. This was created from Fabric TaskFlow Studio. This new folder where all this project info is going to go into. Now you actually may notice something here because of the specifications I just gave it. It's actually going back to the discover design phase. It realized like, oh, I accidentally did the GenFlow 2 and I told it right before sign off that I wanted to do the data warehouse, not the lake house, which it just realized that it has to change this whole task. So we're going back to design. Let's see. Go ahead and redesign. You can actually see the discovery brief here. And this was even updated too to say that warehouse option is chosen, which before was an option. Now, again, if I want this to deploy automatically, I could just turn on the auto edit. So now while we have that running, let's actually go back to the other Fabric workspace to say, we're going to say here. In the Northside baseball workspace, I need a way to combine and create a true gold lake house. That includes all my concessions, CRM, ticketing, and DIM account information into a single gold lake house. This information exists outside of the concession baseball tracking folder. We're going to build this. So right now we actually have two things running at the same time. We have our concession baseball in the folder, and I'm doing one, I think, at the final part where we're running and consolidating to create a single gold lake house with existing data. So one workspace, one project right now is building artifacts from nothing. The other one is actually going to go through and use the existing artifacts in Fabric to build out one single artifact. This is my favorite part of this. It's not just that it can design things, it can know what's actually in your system. And again, part of this, how does this work? You need to make sure that you are authenticated with the Azure CLI. This is a huge part. You need to make sure that you have that ability to edit in that workspace, or obviously this is not going to work. There's also a feature you need to enable in your Power BI tenant. Before you start using TaskFlow Studio, you need to make sure in your admin portal, we have AI or our external. Which one is it? It is The one to, so you can actually edit from the external, from an external tool. Not XMLA. It's not XMLA. It's just API. User, well, what you're going to need to make sure you have the MCP server endpoint. And this, you can also use service principals. If you don't want to use your own information again through Azure CLI, but you need to make sure that you can call the public API and service principals can connect and utilize deployment pipelines. But you're going to want to make sure this first one can use the Power BI model context protocol for GitHub Copilot. All right, let's take a look where we're at. Okay, are we good to go? Approve. We'll just approve that. Let's take a look at our other project. And you can see that now our next one's going. We're going to continue the pipeline. In the north side, you can see with the prompt, we have the assessment. Let's go ahead and continue this pipeline. This one's pretty straightforward. And it's, again, assume that the things already exist. And now it's going to start creating those items in the workspace. So again, admin privileges, and you need to have those workspace access to edit. And then what's neat about this is, again, this is actually forked from Alex. So you can actually see this forked, well, from Microsoft. So thank you, Microsoft. The Microsoft is a terminal base if you're more comfortable there. We'll let these guys run. We'll actually see, is anything going to be running here? So let's go ahead and we'll go back to our Northside Baseball workspace. And there's still currently nothing in it. What happens once we get to deploy is it finally deploys those artifacts. So as we wait for these to run, any questions, any other questions or comments here?
Is that a, like, XML file?
Yeah,
I don't want to build a plan for the ingest code in the fabric.
I'm sorry.
Now I wanted to build a plan and ingest code in the fabric.
Ah, so right now, the app does not support attachments.
If those files are available for me.
I mean, you can actually do it one of two ways. You can actually even add it in the GitHub folder, like the TaskFlow Studio folder, to say, hey, look at this location on my machine. One Lake would be great actually too, because I've actually used that path. Like, hey, look at this One Lake path, and this, and it actually works really well that way. So yeah, if you have like Excel files or CSV, like I need to do historical backfill, or people always add it here. One Lake's probably the best way, but if you don't have that One Lake access, or for whatever reason, you can actually add it in the project folder too. All right, so let's see if this actually ran through. Few things I would like to update here. Right now, it just has an AI button. I would like to actually show a Claude logo or Copilot button to let you know which one you're using and be able to change. You can't change the model once you start a project session. Or if you resume it. Once you create the project, it's going to use either Claude Code or Copilot. So now it's the diagram, and then we'll go ahead and approve our gold lake house again. In our information here, our Northside Baseball has a ton of different lake houses. We have the project on the left-hand side is currently creating artifacts under this new folder. The other one is going to create a gold lake house that has all the right data from all existing artifacts. All right, so here's our right-hand side. You can see we're now on the test plan. I can look at the discovery route to say, does this look right? We're going to use what's already there. The Gold Lake House recently down gold, not a new product. We're going to use cross-folder sources so everything stays in place. Architecture tells me what to do. If everything looks good, all I have to do is go to the bottom and say continue the pipeline. We're going to continue this and test it out to make sure that it'll actually work in Fabric. And then we'll go deploy it on the right-hand side. What's actually happening on the left-hand side here is there is an error in the deployment. But again, because we're using Claude Code and because we're using that agent, it caught those errors and saying, do you want me to fix them? I do need some information from you. I can say in that session. What's great is my computer were to break at this point. Once I start up the project again, it knows where we last left off. Those projects are saved in Fabric TestFlow Studio. Let's make sure if we got data yet. It's doing one verification step. Let's see if we got any artifacts. The right-hand side, our gold one should be done very soon. Of course, we do have, of course, a single error. Our test plan is being written. Which is actually just YAML. All right, so our right-hand one is ready. We're just going to deploy it live. And we're going to go straight to the deploy phase. But we have a revision error, but the right hand should be good. And again, each phase has its own set of skills that it's running from from. Yeah,
Maybe like right now, or maybe. I think it's-
to get it up and running. Yeah. So again, the first things you're going to want to do is in our meeting. So if you actually go to Fabric. So to really get up and running again, the first thing is, and you can see them on the meetup link, there's a GitHub repo. It's really cloning this to your machine, downloading the zip file. Make sure that again, you have Claude Code on your machine. Either Claude Code or Copilot. Make sure you've installed Azure CLI tooling, which simply in my terminal looks like this. And for example, I'm going to go to my GitHub repo. I'm doing, yeah, it's, well, technically it's coming from a run. So if I actually go to my Windows Explorer, all I'm simply doing is running. There's the clone folder. All you have to do is simply run the start.bat. This start will actually open up on your browser, the local instance in the application. Again, all you need to make sure though is you're going to want to, when I get here, you're going to, yeah, that's really the biggest thing is it's running. You need a Python on your machine. You actually see here what you the different options where make sure you have Python, clone the repo, make sure you have the start that bat in Python 3.1. If you actually want to manually install, you can actually do it and create your environment yourself. But the run, the start.bat will actually do it for you. If you need to install Claude Code, you can install it using npm here. But again, really the biggest one, unlike the terminal one, so you actually see here, if I'm going to say Fabric TaskFlow Studio, I can start Copilot here. Which is going to really open up and start task flows for me. The reason I created the app was I like the interface better, especially for managing existing projects. You say yes, and remember this folder's future sessions, and then I can start prompting from here and actually running tasks. Everything on the back end from the agentic side is the same. However, going back, if I exit out of this, if I were to run here, the start.bat, that is going to start the task flows here. And you actually see there is TaskFlow Studios. It automatically open in my browser. And you can see here that my two projects are there. Really, it's clone the repo, make sure you have Python, make sure you have Copilot or Claude Code, and then just run that start.bat in the TaskFlow Studio. You can even double click that too. If you actually look here, if I just double click this folder or this file, that opens up my terminal, tells me the application started. All right, so let's take a look at concessions baseball tracking. Guess what? The artifacts are now there. We have the analytics, the configuration, the variable library. We have the ingestion pattern. It's a copy job. And we have the storage. Now, keep in mind, in the data, there's probably not going to be data. We have not really specified any data yet. So if I go to the schemas here, you're not going to see any tables. Unless I actually add it, because obviously I haven't specified where the sources are coming from. Unlike though, if I look at my Gold Lake House, where I told it where the data was coming from, it's actually going to create those jobs for me. It's actually going to go ahead. We're going to refresh this. We'll see if this works. If I go to Northside Baseball, My Gold Lake House. We'll see if this refreshes. Actually, let's see. I don't think I deployed it yet, so that's why. So we're on my right-hand side. Okay, so the script can't do is one like shortcuts. We can just ask it to run the pipeline. Now it's going to run. So now what's actually created on the right-hand side here is let me know. Actually did not deploy yet. So, and you can see there's a bunch of files. If I actually go to what's actually happening in the back end here. You can actually see there's a projects folder. So at any point, you can actually fork this repo or clone it. And you actually see for the Northside Baseball, there's all the pipeline state, which is really the complete artifacts here, the documentations that you can edit at any time, and even the deployment scripts. So all these Python scripts that you can run, you can save them, you can run them on another machine, but this is actually how it's deploying. Claude is just not just running it, it's actually running these Python scripts on your behalf. And that's really how the backend actually works here. You can even see it has an instance of what my workspace looks like here. I can see if there's, I can even see the prompt Claude, which is really my session history here. Which, or my latest prompt here, run the pipeline to get the data in the Gold Lake House. So that's running right now to get the Gold Lake House one. But as we can see with our concession data, now we have the Gold Lake House here, and we can start getting data in. What I can also see in my Northside Baseball, I'll actually go to Northside Baseball here. It has all the information I need, including the pipelines and the processing that I'm going to need here. So I can even see there's a semantic model here, which is going to have my concession information. Now I can ask it to fill it in with dummy data, or I can even tell it the source that it's in. Okay, so the whole workflow really works that way. I'm going to refrain from showing you guys how to add dummy data. Really, you can specify what tables you may need. But I want to at least showcase here everything that you see in the lake houses I want to show you. We're all from Cloud Code and all from Taslow Studios. And how it actually built it out. I told it that I need in here, and there's my gold data. So you can actually see it actually created my gold food hourly concession, gold standard performance. So it shows me the units of revenue. All these numbers were created from Cloud Code in Fabric Taskflow Studio in that same project. I said, now great. Now that you've deployed the artifacts, let's go ahead and add data. If you actually have real data coming from a CRM like Salesforce or coming from Dynamics, you can actually say, let's write instructions or help run that pipeline, or maybe it's an API. You can actually run that entire flow from Fabric Taskflow Studios. That way it understands the artifacts that already exist and kind of keeps the context of a session going on. All right, so that's really everything with Fabric Taskflow Studio. Again, I know we had a shorter crowd today. We still wanted to go through how everything runs. When a project is complete, the last thing is you can actually see the project brief, what we actually did, and actually talks about the final validation, which is a pipeline and architecture handoff. So all these documents are available to let you know what was done and how it was done. Again, these projects are saved on your machine. They're saved in the actual Fabric Taskflow Studio anytime you run it. I have been personally being able to build all my demo information and even working on actual projects, real life projects, using my sessions, not just to build it, but to manage it. So that's really everything I have to show. I guess that really at this point, I'll ask, are there any kind of final questions on what is possible or how to get started? So it's like I said, it is pretty straightforward to run. Just clone the repo, make sure you have Python, Azure CLI, and get a Cloud Code or Copilot installed on your computer. And the browser will start up and you really just start prompting. But besides that, any questions? I'm sorry. How to start? Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
And I wanted to explore fabric and do something hands-on. I signed up for this.
Yeah.
I saw a lot more than everything. So to start, so it's very in-depth knowledge I should practice.
Yeah. So did you install the did you clone the repo yet?
Yeah, I was feeling it. So I updated my Python. Just too small.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So like I said, you can just try running the start.bat in the repo. So can you open Windows Explorer? Windows Explorer? The folder. Wow. Now let's go to where you clone the repos. Um, wherever the task studio is on your machine. Right, okay, so what we need to do is clone that onto your computer. So, do you have GitHub on your machine? Or Git? Okay, so let's go to the website, I'll show you what you can do. So let's go, we'll go back to the README. And let's go, yep, go back to the other one. And what we're gonna do, or, sorry, yeah, let's do that. Go back to the README. Let's go back to Fabric Task Studio. Yep. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put on code. We're going to download the zip. And that download, we're gonna extract it on your C drive, give another folder. Is everything working for you on it? No, okay. Running. We go to the discovery. You use Copilot or Cloud Code? Do you have Cloud Code? Potentially try Cloud Code. I don't think it should matter, but you're gonna actually have to go to the home, right? So if you go back to Windows Explorer and wherever you yeah. Okay, so wherever you extracted that folder to. Okay, so let's go into that. This, and let's try to run it. So again, setting up Python and everything else. Let's put on start.exe. So run. So it's going to create the virtual environment and should run.
It's like
I mean, there's a ton you can work on, but like, it will give you kind of like its output on what you can do.
Well, like I would have put in there with long term, so like what is can I start on?
I'm not sure I understand.
So you want to learn fabric?
Yeah. You want, oh, okay.
Because
So-
I just see that image, that was just about fabric, I thought would be.
Yeah, so honestly, the user groups are gonna be hopefully a lot helpful to that. I would say look at the community, the Power BI community, online in the forum is a really great place. There's a podcast out there that they do about all the new things going on, called Explosive Measures. Those are probably three really great books. So we didn't make this really the best book, so it's gonna solve the dependencies. Actually, let's try. There's still say cloud code is, to try refreshing the browser. And it's still great. Check the I maybe restart the session. That may be there. So we set up a kind of cloud code.
Let me take this on, that's my case.
Okay.
That XML file is like a real thing.
If you keep having errors, add an issue to the repo. And then I'll take a look at it.
We have, does anyone run it for that?
Yeah, not that I know. So that may be it. But submit an issue there. Yeah, everyone that I know that's run it is all with Windows. But if you want on the repo itself,
All the code would have to be in the repo,
what?
all the code's in the repo. right?
Yeah, so it's technically it would work on a Mac, but in the repo itself, if you want to just add an issue.
Yeah, I'll play around with it more. Yeah, I think I'll do it more.
So yeah, it's up and running for you now. So, and again, it's you gotta obviously connect with the Azure command line interface. That's an Azure terminal tool. And you also need to make sure you have works somewhere to access Fabric. You obviously can't do anything if you don't have Fabric. And make sure cloud code. Okay, any other questions or anything you want to help out with?
It's pretty, copycats.
Can you create Fabric apps? Technically, you should be able to. But it would have to install Rayfin and PM. Now, it should be able to do that. It's not as part of the IT skill. It's possible, but it's, I don't think it's like out of the box. You would have to install Rayfin and do that. It can create the architecture, it create the idea of Rayfin design, create the app.
To make a skill.
You can make it still, yeah, to do so. But it should be able to create the artifact, but then you just need obviously require information. So. Well, because that's what the rate and PM does. It just has lots of skill in it.
You could create a skill in here.
For rate then?
Great.
Yeah.
That skill you showed, getting your.
Yeah.
Help with the response. Is that in your GitHub?
Yep, that is under the it's under GitHub. You can see all the skills there. So if you look under .github, you'll see the skills, prompts, workflows, and agents. And you see these are the all the different skills: deploy, design, discover, which are all the same phases, really. All right, well, I think this is our, we'll kind of officially close out the user group. Please come if you feel inclined, where we're going to go through an in-depth, not an application, but we're actually going to look at is on September 24th, same time. What we're going to actually do is what does context look like going handing off from agent to agent in Fabric? When it comes to running AI, so to speak, with Power BI and what projects you're working on, my goal is to get everyone off doing single prompts and using only context from your existing projects and create a workflow for yourself. In the meeting itself, there's a link to kind of what I'm explaining, but it's really about if you want to use MCPs, if you want to use even TaskFlow Studios, how can you give it the proper context before that? And more importantly, whatever work you do in an agent, how do you make sure that they're in sync? Where I've designed a dashboard or semantic model using the MCP, using notes from my GitHub project or from my Osmodin or Notion. How do I make sure these things write back? So it goes through this whole workflow of managing a project from soup to nuts, using, in a sense, two different sides. The article, again, we're going to look at are really the three main areas that go into this, where we talk about four main areas here. Where simply we need skills, agents, and context, and the ability to talk to other tooling. So those are really the four pillars that we're going to go over during the user group. Again, bring a friend, grab a pizza. Otherwise, thank you very much for everyone joining, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. So